Hi, welcome to You Should Know This. I've decided to teach on Samson. About almost exactly 6 years ago this month, for no particular reason, just started reading the Epic of Samson, and I've been keep going back every few weeks and looking at it and looking at it, and there is a lot of stuff here that we don't really look into. We just kind of pass over it. You know all the stories, but I want you to take one closer look at it and see something very interesting about Samson. Now, I picked Jocko because he's a recognizable face. He's got his uh, protein bars and all that stuff, and he's a big scary dude. And Hollywood, that's who they'd put in for Samson, big scary dude. But that didn't wouldn't really show how strong and powerful God is, because this dude slays a few hundred people. Yeah, okay, I believe it. This dude, on the other hand, that would show the power of a truly powerful God. So I think Hollywood is a bit wrong with their portrayal of Samson. So let's take a good look at the man from Hebrews 11. Hebrews 11 is God's Hall of Fame, the heroes of the faith. Samson is in Hebrews 11. So we really do need to take a look at him. Oh, Samson, he's a dirty bird. We don't want to look at Samson. He's a pervert. We gotta, we gotta look at something else. Look at something more important. Let's look to Proverbs. We'll quote Proverbs all day. Proverbs was written by Solomon, who had 700 wives and 300 concubines. Now, when we study Samson, we do study his body count. He killed thousands of men, hundreds of men, thousands of men. But let's look at the other quote unquote body count, as the kids on the Tic Tac call it today. Solomon was over 1,000. So let's see what we got on Samson and in the amazing feats that he performed. Okay, so you got to remember that the Old Testament was written divinely inspired by God to teach us things, give us examples of the way things were and how they went, so we know what to do. Now, this first verse here, Judges 13:13, uh, or 13:1, and the children of Israel did evil again in the sight of the Lord. Now, everybody on Reddit is throwing their hands up. Oh, the Jews, the Jews, the Jews. Oh no, what evil are the Jews doing now? You got to calm down a little bit. You have not properly read your Bible or history. Okay? When the Bible is talking about the children of Israel, the chosen people of God, and things along those lines, it is also talking about you and me, the saved, redeemed of Christ. So when I see the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, I have to think, am I in trouble because I have done evil in the sight of the Lord and been given over to affliction by the Philistines for 40 years? Okay? So Israel has backslid. They're under the thumb of the Philistines. And there was a lady, Manoah of the Danites, and she was barren and could not have a kid, which was just shameful in those days. And an angel came to her and said, "You shall conceive and bear a son." And he says, "Beware, and I beg you, do not drink wine or strong drink or eat any unclean thing. Shall conceive, bear a son, no razor shall come on his head, for he shall be a Nazarite unto God from his womb, and he shall begin to deliver Israel out of the hand of the Philistines." So even in the womb, the mother's intake has an important part of the child's life. It's not just a growth. He was called a Nazarite from the womb, and he will begin to deliver Israel. But that's a whole other sermon on the begin to deliver. So let's see what the Nazarite vow is. Number 6, verse 2, right here. Speaking of the children of Israel, and saying to them, either a man or a woman. Yes, if you think The Bible is patriarchal, written by evil men, corrupt men who are keeping women down. You gotta look again. Man and woman, man or woman, shows up quite a bit. In the law of Moses, they were considered equal in almost all situations. And yes, a woman could take the Nazarite vow. It is written in the law of Moses. So calm down. Thou of a Nazarite, you separate your. Let me back up a little bit. When the man or woman shall separate themselves to vow a vow of a Nazarite, separate themselves unto the Lord. This is a personal choice that they make. He shall separate himself from wine. He shall drink no vinegar of wine. He shall neither shall he drink any liquor of grapes, nor eat moist grapes or dried. Stay away from grapes, grape juice, all of it, right? That's important. That'll come back later. During the separation, no razor shall come upon his head. That's how you show how holy you are, right? Guy with really long hair. Oh, he's been a Nazarite for a long time. And while you are separated, you cannot touch a dead body. Okay? This is important. Okay? No grapes. Don't cut your hair. Don't touch no dead bodies. Okay, how deep is this? Coming no dead body. He cannot make himself unclean for his father, mother, brother, or sister. A couple of verses down. If any man die very suddenly by him, and he hath defiled the head of his consecration, he shall have to shave his head. So you can't say bye to mama or mama at the funeral. You can't help take a body out of the house. If somebody dies and lands on you, you are defiled and you have to shave your head. That's important. So no wine, no shaved head. Oh yeah, no touch that body. Okay, this is important for the covenant made of the Nazarite. When it's over, you bring in some offerings. Even if you accidentally touch a dead body, you have to bring in some offerings and stuff like that. And the priest will shave your head at the door of the tabernacle, and it will be thrown into the fire with your offering. Okay, but after your head is shaved, you can drink wine. The Nazarite may drink wine after his head is shaved. That is another interesting part. Wait a minute. The Passover. During the Nazarite vow, you cannot properly participate in the Passover. So they couldn't do their special communion with God. Communion is a version of Passover. They could not do that if they were under the Nazarite vow. So, back to Samson's parents. Manoah, the dad, said unto his wife, we shall surely die because we have seen God. The angel came back to him, explained it a little bit further, and he said, we shall surely die because we have seen God. That is an interesting little Christmas story. You remember the shepherds were sore afraid because they were seeing angels. They thought they would die. These are humble people. They know their place. They know they are not holy enough to approach God. We have seen God, so we will surely die. She says, no, wait a minute. If he had wanted to kill us, he wouldn't have received the burnt offering and meat offering that we made. And he wouldn't have shown these things, and he wouldn't have told these things. And she bore a son, called his name Samson, and he grew, and the Lord blessed him. He may have done a few feats as a child, but he saw a woman of Timnah, of the daughters of the Philistines, and came up and told his father and mother, I have seen a woman of Timnah, of the daughters of the Philistines. Now therefore get her for me to wife. Okay, this is that same verse right there in the middle. Came up, told his father and mother, and said, I've seen a woman in Timnah, the daughter of the Philistines. Get her for me to wife. If you're in your 30s, are you going to go ask your parents to arrange the marriage? No. He's not. He's a teenager. That is something that is done when they're a teenager. He's not 40 years old, finally getting a wife. This is the first woman he's gone after. You remember Solomon and the 700 wives? This is Samson's first. He's a teenager. Get her for me to a wife. Skipping down a little bit, they said, Ain't there somebody from our village? He said, Nope, I want the Philistine. Get her for me. So they go down, and they're at the vineyards, and a young lion roared against him. So the young lion roars against him. Young lion roars against him. This isn't some decrepit old lion, gray haired, with bad hips. This is still a young, strong teenager, so to speak. Shouldn't be able to wrestle it. Okay? And he rent him as he would have rent a kid. And he told not his father or his mother what he had done. That means he was hanging out in the vineyard. You remember the wine and the grapes? What's the boy doing in the vineyard? He's not supposed to be around grape plants, but he's hanging out in the vineyard. Okay, young lion rode against him. Now, he rent him as he would have rent a kid. Rent a kid. That is important. Think back. Where does that come up? Oh, yeah. The sacrifice of the lamb. The lamb is cut in half, cut open. Yeah, the lion and the lamb. Have you heard that phrase before? It shows up talking about Samson. So, he went down, talked with the woman, and she pleased Samson well. After a time, he returned to take her. That's not very clear. After a time, he returned to take her. Think back to the birth of Jesus. Mary and Joseph were engaged, married for a year, but they were not fully husband and wife for that year. Okay? To give it a little bit further, after a time he returned to take her, and he turned aside to see the carcass of the lion. I want to go see what's going on. And there were bees and honey in the carcass of the lion. I have investigated this. Remember, I've been doing this for 6 years. If I buy, what's it, aviary? No, the thing that holds the bees. And I get some really good bees, right? And I cut these bees loose. It's going to be 9 months minimum for me to get honey out of this bee thing, house thing. 9 to 12 months. Okay, so he did wait. The Jewish law of not taking his wife for a year after engagement. Now, backing the truck up a little bit, the engagement, that was a legally binding agreement between the woman and the husband's family. She was given full rights and benefits of a daughter at that point. Yes, during that first initial agreement that they are married. If the husband dies 2 months later, she gets full inheritance on that. She is a full daughter at that point. Okay, it doesn't wait for the actual marriage ceremony. She is a full daughter at that point. Okay, now she's taken a year. He comes back down. They eat of the lion. Wait a minute. They ate the flesh. Well, they ate something out of an animal. Remember, he can't touch a dead body. Where did I wrote it down. There it is. It gets even better. Exodus 22 and 31. You shall be holy men unto me, neither shall you eat any flesh that is torn of beasts in the field. You shall cast it to the dogs. So he is touching another dead body. Yeah, it's not a human dead body, but it is an unclean animal. Lions were not in the clean list on the dietary laws. So it is an unclean animal. So he's eating out of an unclean animal. So they hang out. He tells a riddle about the lion. Yes, the young lion. Not the old lion, the young lion. And they get his fiancee wife to give up the riddle because they've got 30 shirts and garments, right? And she entices him for 7 days, or however many days. She begs and pleads, and finally he relents and tells her. She wept before him 7 days while the feast lasted, and came past on the seventh day that he told her because she lay sore upon. Boy, she is leading him on. If he is such a dirty bird, how is she leading him on? Right? Sounds like he hasn't gotten the milk for free, if you ask me. But anyway, we'll gloss over that. Circle back to it later, if you know what I mean. So they plowed with his heifer, which made him mad. So he went down the street and killed 30 dudes and took their shirts. Wait a minute, you remember? No wine and no touch a dead body. How you take a shirt off of a dead body without touching it? Yeah, he has technically broken the Nazarite vow. So he gives him the, the stuff, and then they kill his wife. Now it came to pass a while after, at the time of wheat harvest. If you see a time in the Bible, it is important. Just stop and think about it for a minute. Now the barley harvest comes first. The wheat harvest comes about a month later, late spring. Early spring is the barley harvest. Now the barley harvest is the barley is cheap, wheat is expensive, it's more versatile, things like that. Um, and just for today's at our current time, uh, Passover is the barley harvest, and the Feast of Pentecost is the wheat harvest. They're really close to those Jewish holidays. Okay, so he did come back to finally wife his wife, and nope, we gave her away, and he's angry because the Philistines gave his wife away. He was very much in love with his wife, and he was angry. So he went and caught 300 foxes, took firebrands, and turned tail to tail, and put a firebrand in the midst between the two tails. So he tied their tails together with a firebrand and cut them loose in the field. Now, it says standing corn of the Philistines, but it's wheat or grains, any kind of grain, right? The wheat, if it's the wheat harvest, that wheat is going to be very dry. Um, corn was a King James version that day and age. Corn was any grain. That word existed long before Columbus. So he set the fields on fire and burned up all of the harvest that they were ready to harvest, and he burned up the any standing grain and the vineyards and the olives. All what are they going to eat? They're still stuck with barley if they even have any left. He has ruined the harvest and the harvest to come. And also, you ever try to catch a wild animal? Yeah, back that up a little bit. He just walked out and grabbed 300 wild animals, set fire to their tails, and still controlled them. That's something you got to step back and think about for a second. You ever try to control a wounded animal? Even a family pet that is wounded is difficult to control. So that's another thing you need to. Oh, wait a minute. That's a big deal right there. And they were angry about that, and he killed a bunch of them. And then he's chilling, and they pitch. The Philistines went up, pinched Judah, spread themselves, and basically prepared for war. And the men of Judah said, whoa, 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 what are you doing? They said, give us Samson, and we won't kill everybody. And 3,000 men of Judah went to the top of Rock Edom and said to Samson, the Philistines are rulers over us. You got to be nice to them. You're trying to get us killed. And we're gonna tie you up and deliver you to the hands of the Philistines. Samson said, swear to me you will not fall upon me yourselves. And they said, surely we will not kill thee. Have you heard this line before? You remember when, man, what's that dude's name? Judah? Was it Judah? One of the disciples went and kissed Jesus and turned him over to the temple guards, also Hebrews, who turned them over to the Philistines to be killed. Yeah, Judas, whatever. Yeah. Hey, that's an interesting little tidbit, don't you think? Nope, they didn't kill him. They just arrested him and turned him over. Our hands are clean. So, he's Samson. He broke loose his bonds. They said, surely we won't kill you. The Philistines shouted against him. They were all big and bad, shouting. And the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon him. Cords were broken off of his hands. And he found a new jawbone of an ass, put forth his hand, and took it, and slew 1,000 men therewith. Now, you mean I'm not going to take on 1,000 men with a machine gun? This boy picked up a jawbone and slew 1,000 men. A new jawbone, it said. This wasn't one that was brittle, and this one was probably still a little bit juicy. Yes, he picked up the flesh of a dead animal. And how do you slay 1,000 men without touching some of those dead men? Right? So he slew 1,000 men, and with jawbone of an ass, heaps upon heaps, jaw of an ass, have I slain 1,000 men. Made an end of speaking, he cast away the jawbone. That's an interesting sermon I heard once. If he had kept it, it would have become an object of worship. So he threw it away so people wouldn't worship. And he calls the place Ramatheli, which means the height of a jawbone. I just looked at that up today. And he was thirsty. He said, woe is me. Shall I now die of thirst? So even, amazing feat, he's still whiny like we are. And God clave a hollow place that was in the jaw. So where he had picked up that jaw, he looked down and saw that there was water there. So he drank out of a hole in the ground that just had a juicy piece of bone in it. Yes. And he's fine after that. And he named it Enakor, which is the spring of one calling, is what that means. And he judged Israel in the days of the Philistines 20 years. It says that twice, but I think it was only 20 years total. So there's that drawing again with man with a jawbone. And then he saw an harlot. Now, you need to check yourself real quick. There's a harlot in the Old Testament, 12 children of Israel type of era. Yeah, there's a harlot there. That's Jesus' great 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 grandmother. And then you got Rahab the harlot, also Jesus' great 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 grandmother. So don't be looking down on somebody when the Bible says they're a harlot. Okay? But he thinks this harlot's cute. This is the second woman. This is two, not Solomon and his 1,000 women. This is the second woman in Samson's life. So he went down to Gaza and hung out until midnight. Down there, the verse 3, he rose at midnight And they said, we're gonna hang out, we're gonna catch him, we can kill him. So he hangs out till midnight, and he took the doors of the gate of the city and the two posts and went away with him, bar and all, and put them on his shoulders and carried them up to the top of the hill that is before Hebron. He was in Gaza, and he took the gates of the city to Hebron. Okay? Now, the gates of this, yeah, this isn't a chain link fence gate that keeps my chihuahua in. This is a fortification that keeps bandits and armies out. He took it up to Hebron from Gaza. I keep saying that when the Old Testament is saying, or the New Testament is saying places, dates, and times, you need to look at it a little bit closer. So he took them at midnight, the posts and the bar and all. It's huge. This thing's huge, right? The posts and the bar. The posts are the uprights. Okay. The bar is the cross piece. It goes across to keeps the doors from. You know what I'm talking about. You've seen all the movies where they bar the doors. Yes, that's the horizontal cross piece. The other post is the upper up and down piece, right? So that's the gates of the city. They're huge, right? And he took them from Gaza to Hebron in one night. 37 miles. Okay? He took the upright, he took the cross piece, and he took an impossible weight up a hill. That sound familiar? He threw them upon his shoulders and carried them up the hill. Gaza to Hebron is 37 miles in one night. Now, what gets even funnier, that is the fortification of the city. How are they going to fortify that city now? They got to go get it. That'd be the fastest thing. They got to go get it and rebuild it. They got to take a team of men and a couple of teams of oxen up there to drag it back. Now, me, I take an exit at the Cracker Barrel sign, right? You know which exits you take when you're going home. All of the travelers moving around this area are going to see them on this 2 or 3 day journey dragging their city gate. Hey, boys, what are you doing? How did your gates get all the way out here? What is going on? Because you recognize it. That's right. Why am I seeing the Gaza gate over here by Hebron? Right? So you're going to say something to these guys. The humiliation, the walk of shame these guys had to go through. That's funny. I don't care who you are. That's funny right there. So then we get to Delilah. This is lady number 3. Yes, not Solomon 1000. Samson 3. Okay, lady number 3, Delilah. The city fathers, there was about 5 of them, and 1,100 shekels of silver. It's about maybe $90,000 or so. This 2026 might be $90,000, right? A good chunk of change, half the price of a lower budget house. Okay, a good chunk of change. Um, she asked where his strength, what can be bound to afflict thee? And he said, 7 green withs that were never dried, and I shall be weak as any other man. I don't know what a green with is. I don't care. Something, it's something that grows out of the ground. So if she binds him with that, there are men laying in wait in her chamber, big room, and she yells, "The Philistines be upon thee, Samson." That sounds familiar, doesn't it? The Philistines yelled at him, and he jumped up and whooped them. Okay. And he keeps going back. Now, why would he keep going back? If there's all these women all around, and he's a dirty bird, how does he keep going back? He's not getting that milk for free, if you ask me. But, and even through this betrayal, he keeps going back. And okay, the next one, she says, he says, you bind me with new ropes that were never used. And she binds him. The Philistines are upon thee, Samson. And so he breaks them off, and then he said, "Oh, weave the locks of my hair into to a beam." And she says, "The Philistines are upon thee, Samson." And he jumps up and whoops him. Okay, she is still pushing him. She pressed him daily with her words, urged him so that his pressed him daily with her words, so that his whole soul was waxed to death. So after she pressed him, he told her all his heart, and said unto her, there shall not come a razor upon my head. I've been a Nazarite since my mother's womb. If I'm shaven, my strength will go from me, and I shall become weak like any other man. He has not kept one single bit of the covenant. He's touched dead bodies left and right. He's played around in the vineyard. And he told her all that was in his heart. He was of the firm belief that his long hair was his source of strength. It said previously the Spirit of the Lord had come upon him and he was strong. But he believed his strength was in his hair. He does not even say, well, he says, I've been a Nazarite unto God. That's it. He doesn't say, I'm separated unto God and that's where my power's from. He says, I have hair and that's where my power's from. You follow me? It's not your grandmother's prayers that saved you. It's not your fasting that gives you the blessing. It's not your daily devotional. You have to read 5 chapters of the Bible that is growing you. It is you belong to God because Jesus died on the cross. Those other things are mild, but those other things are gravy. The meat is Jesus died on the cross to make you a son of God. That's why your prayers are answered. Okay? If it wasn't for Jesus, your prayers would be ignored. If it wasn't for Jesus, your fasting would be ignored. He told Delilah his faith was in his hair, not in the power of God. That's the main message of Samson. Oh, he's doing a bird. The main message of Samson is, where does your faith lie? Okay? So she shaved his head, says, the Philistines be upon thee, Samson. And of course, he was weak this time. And they cut out his eyes and threw him in the prison house to grind grain. And they bound him with fetters of brass. I don't know what that means. I haven't bothered looking into it. I don't know if those are stronger than iron, if they haven't invented iron yet, or what. Don't care. And the hair of his head began to grow after he was shaven. So this was a couple of weeks probably. He didn't have big flowing locks, beautiful mane of hair wrapped up in a bun. He just had he still had a shaven head basically. You could tell he had just shaved. He had lost his juice, so to speak. He was no longer a Nazarite. And they gathered for a sacrifice and said, call for Samson that he may make us sport. And they called Samson out of the prison house and he made them sport. And they set him between the pillars. And it was he said to the boy, let me lean upon the pillars so I may lean upon them. It is multiple 2 pillars said again and again in this passage. That's important. And there were 3,000 men and women up on this roof. I think it was still Gaza, but which building in your town can hold 3,000 people on the roof? Yeah, chew on that for a second. 3,000 people. That's like a high school gym. Okay? Everybody knows where that building is, especially in that day and age. Not many buildings held 3,000 people. The whole town knew where that was. Probably the 5 towns around there knew where that was. This is a big building. It's so big that the pillars are 5, 6 feet apart because he can lean on both of them. Okay, and they made sport of him. Yeah, and then upon over 3,000 men and women. See, men and women together again, equal. While Samson made sport. What was it? I don't know. How about they walked up and said, slap right in the face and said, who did that? You gonna get me now? Sound familiar? Okay. Yeah, you make me say I'm pushing it. But he is still incapacitated, and they are making sport of him. Samson, verse 28, Samson called upon the Lord and said, O Lord God, remember me, I pray thee, and strengthen me, I pray thee, only this once. He has finally come to his senses. He no longer believes the strength was in his hair. He no longer believes his strength was in his Nazarite vow that he never really took. He finally realizes that his strength came directly from God, and he finally admits it. He finally puts his faith in the correct thing. And he took hold of the two middle pillars upon which house stood, which was borne up, one in his right hand and one in his left, and he died in that position. Who died with outstretched arms? I'm not saying he is equal to Jesus, but this is one of the pre-incarnate examples we are given of Jesus. When Isaac is put on the sacrificial pyre, we say he is an example of Jesus. When that ram is caught by his horns and makes the substitutionary death for Isaac, we say that is a pre-incarnate vision of Jesus. So the dead which he slew at his death were more than which he slew in his life. Doesn't that sound wonderful? Like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? Jesus performing miracles did not save anyone. Jesus healing the lepers, making the lame men walk and the blind men see, did not save them. It was his death that saved them. His death was bigger than his life, so to speak. And he took down the biggest building in town. He made a show of them openly. Oh, it gets better. Then his brethren and the house of his father came down, took him, brought him up, buried him in that place, in the birthplace and burying place of Manoah's father. And he judged Israel 20 years. Yeah. His brethren and the house of his father came down. His brethren and the house of his father. Does that sound familiar? You're chewing on that. You've heard that before. Who buried Abraham? Isaac and Ishmael. I think so. It's Isaac and Ishmael. But his brethren and the house of his father. Now, who buried Jesus? Joseph of Arimathea. Jesus' great 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 cousin, 65 times removed, son of David. And who's the guy from John 3? I just drew a blank. I'm going to pause the recording. Okay, I just did the Google. And Nicodemus. Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus got Jesus' body to bury it. The family and the brethren. So, those are things you need to look at when you're looking at why is that person in Hebrews 11. There are quite a few examples throughout this series of events that point you to Jesus. Everything in the Bible should point you to Jesus on that cross. So, I think I have everything. I'm I'm at 30 minutes. I've taken up enough of your time. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it makes you dig a little deeper into your daily reading of the Bible. If something jumps out at you, go ahead and Google it and look through it a little bit. Okay. Um, so that's all I got for Samson. So don't be a dirty bird. Like, share, and subscribe. And y'all have a good weekend.